No. It was just something you said about the right side of the brain and the creativity. Kind of mirrors something that I do for myself and I talk to other people about is projects. Like I love having projects, right? Because part of that's kind of a compulsive side of me, but the other part of it is I know myself bored. But then there's another aspect of it is mechanical actions or that mathematical side of your problem solving part of your brain doesn't have anxiety. So if you're being crushed by anxiety is a cognitive issue, right? I mean, it's a chemical issue as well, but it's a cognitive issue. Like you have a fear of something, or there's an irrational fear of something, right? A lot of it's related to cortisol, etc. But what I've found is that repetitive mechanical events, like I'm not going to say knitting. I don't knit, right? But there's folks I know that would carve. But there's, for me, like cutting and measuring wood and building something is a very mathematical, very mechanical, very repetitive. For example, working out, running, rowing, that's a very mechanical, very repetitive event. Different things like that. And that completely decouples that anxiety part of my brain from something that's a physical action. It's more, I don't know. I don't know the section of the brain that I'm talking about, but I know what it does for me. It just takes me from the cognitive anxiety aspect of it to more of just a functional thing, like just doing something is what helps me get through stuff.
I don't know. I kind of was always enamored with, Fight Club. And when Tyler are in the kitchen and he's like, this is lye. And then licks his lips, kisses his hand, and pours the lye on it. And it's something really interesting about that moment is the lie's burning his hand and he's freaking out and he's trying to go back to his escapes from pain. He's like going to like think of the woods, and Tyler's like the other, Brad Pitt's character is like, no, this is your pain. Sit with it. And there's something really interesting about that. Like I get it. Tyler Durden, is a kind of anti-hero, but there was something very unique or very powerful about that they can sit in their discomfort. And Bruce Lee, in his amazing book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, said the only way to be free of a disease is to make company with it. Make company with it, embrace it, and eventually you'll be free of it. And again, looking at our addictions, it's the more I try to distance myself from that reality is the more I'm coming to it. Whereas if I sit in it and understand what's actually going on, and that takes a lot of introspection. And that's why, again, I love people in recovery, because introspection is where we have to exist. And I noticed that a lot of people in recovery are more akin to the white blood cell. They're helper T cells, they're white cells. And, we tend to have some issues getting along with the red blood cells, but by virtue, like we need each other, and it's really interesting. And I noticed that a lot of people in recovery have a magnitude of compassion because they understand suffering on those much deeper levels. I don't know if that's kind of relevant to what we're talking about, but it's just something I noticed. And that's why, going back to, like, I'm an escape artist. Like, I love my escapes, working out for one, but I can get pathological with working out too. Like I can get too into it because I love the endorphins, when I'm taxing myself completely out, and now it becomes very bad for me. It's again, finding the balance in life, in these projects and all these things. But, meditation, we talk about meditation, and I'm not some freaking bodhisattva either where I can just sit there and meditate. Like, it takes Herculean effort for me to meditate, to sit there and focus on breathing, because my brain's like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And in another great book that I read is called The Handbook of the Navigator, where he talks about that voice. He calls it the babbler, to quiet the babbler. And that's an entire book about getting to a higher level of meditation, like transcendental meditation, I believe. But first, before we get to the nail gun, we got to kind of work with the hammer, so to speak. And that's where it's these processes. But that the author is so awesome at kind of unfolding it. And I didn't necessarily agree with everything he said, but doesn't invalidate anything that he said. So that babbler was that voice that keeps me up at night. Well, what if this happens? What if that's going on? I'm like, turn the TV on. Take sleep meds. God, I need a drink. I don't want to drink. I kind of do, but I don't. I'm going to drink, and that's what I would do, because I couldn't shut the babbler off. So being able to sit with the babbler and tell it to shut up. And I don't mean to go on too long, but one thing I did the other day is my brain started to do that. It was going back to my relationship. Again, it's a very painful breakup for me. And then my brain started going in some very dark corners in make-believe land. And then finally I just told it, you work for me. I don't work for you. You work for me. And I'm tired of this. Stop torturing me. And I know that sounds insane to say, but that is like me roping in my subconscious. Like, I'm tired of you. I'm tired of you. And we need to start working together. Because the alternative is I go back to drinking and I go back to suicide. And that's it. No, that's a death sentence for me. So no, you work for me. I don't work for you.